Hello and welcome to Newsround, the programme where we bring you up to date with the news and views about aerospace, aviation and defence across the emerging markets of Africa, Arabia and South Asia. I'm Marcelle Nethersole.
And I'm Mark Pilling. In the airline world, we'll take a look at how the pandemic is impacting the balance sheets at Emirates and Qatar Airways. Then we've got Alan Peaford and Sam Basch put the spotlight on South African defence, including an update on Paramount's progress in the training market. We will also examine Turkey's move to build the region's largest test site for its fighters and other indigenous aircraft. And finally, we go to India to look at a new drone delivery service. So, plenty to pack in today. But first, the news headlines from Marcelle Nethersole after this message.
And welcome back. So here are this week's news headlines from across the Middle East, Africa and India. Good news for South African defence company Paramount, whose US subsidiary, along with technology company Leidos and Verdex, have reached the final selection of the US Special Operations Command's Armed Overwatch aircraft prototype programme. The three collaborators are among 5 teams awarded a total of $19.3 million for the prototype demonstrations and will advance Bronco 2 to Phase 3 operational prototype demonstration later this month. The Bronco 2 is based on Paramount's Maui aircraft built in South Africa. The Nigerian Airforce has announced that it is going to partner with Caverton Helicopters for the maintenance of rotary wing aircraft, as well as training of aircrews. The deal means that Caverton Helicopters will maintain NAF's fleet, including AW-139, AW-109 Power and Bell 412 helicopters. Just 2 months after Interrupts, a new investor in Hyderabad-based TrueJet, announced ambitious growth plans for the airline, those plans have been put on hold. Some 5 of the airline's fleet of 7 ATR-72s have been grounded due to outstanding dues to lessors. Abu Dhabi-based leasing company Sirius Aviation Capital Holdings has acquired 10 single-aisle midlife aircraft from BOC Aviation. Sirius began operations in Abu Dhabi in March 2020 and in just over a year has grown its fleet to 10 aircraft and over the next 3 years plans to grow its fleet to 100 aircraft. Business aircraft and helicopter operator Lux Aviation Group is expanding the company's Middle Eastern fleet. In Turkey, a Bombardier Challenger 300 is joining its fleet under non-charter private management, and an Embraer Lineage 1000 and Embraer Legacy 600 will also be joining the fleet in June on the San Marino Air Operator Certificate. Both aircraft will be available for charter and managed by Luxor Aviation Group's Middle Eastern team. The Union Aviation and Shipping Ministries of India have signed an MOU to develop seaplane services in the country. While the Shipping Ministry will identify and develop waterfront infrastructure of aerodromes and obtain required statutory clearances, aviation authorities will carry out bidding and select operators under UDAN to operationalise the routes. The Mohammed bin Rashid Space Centre has partnered with French space agency CNES for the Emirates lunar mission. Under the cooperation initiative, the French space agency will provide Mohammed bin Rashid Space Centre with 2 optical cameras for the Rashid rover, which will provide high-resolution images in full high definition. GE Aviation has awarded Royal Jordanian Airlines a technical licence to use GE's patented 360 foam wash system on its GEnx-1B aircraft engines. The technical licence allows Royal Jordanian to perform 360 foam wash on its fleet of GEnx-1B engines for Boeing 787 aircraft completely on its own. GE's 360 foam wash is an alternative to the water wash method. And finally, over the past week, Fahari Aviation, a subsidiary of Kenya Airways, has been demonstrating how drones can add value to society by participating in the Savo ecosystem wildlife census. Fahari Aviation's drones and crew piloted the use of the drones in an exercise that aims to establish a national baseline of wildlife populations and their distribution in Kenya. The national census will count terrestrial, freshwater and marine mammals, key birds, endangered primates and threatened amphibians and reptiles in the 47 counties in Kenya. Another example there of how aviation is a force for good. It's back to you, Mark.
Thanks, Ella. Thank you very much. And more about drones, of course, later on from India. Now, here's our first report. In the Gulf, the financial impact of the pandemic on Emirates and Qatar Airways is beginning to emerge. For the first time in 32 years, Emirates has fallen into the red, announcing a loss of $5.5 billion for the year ending 31st of March 2021. Revenue fell by two-thirds in the year to 8.4 billion. Passenger numbers fell 88% to 6.6 million. But to bolster its balance sheet, the airline, which has and will no doubt continue to be a huge enabler in the transformation of its country, of Dubai, has received a further 1.1 billion in support from the Dubai government. There have been radical and deep actions to cut costs, with Emirates reducing its workforce by 31% to 75,000 employees, and 5 Airbus A380s and 9 Boeing 777s have been retired. The carrier says that it is determined to recover strongly from a crisis, its order book remains intact, and it is looking forward to welcoming a premium economy product, a premium economy class, on its A380s to boost revenue in that market segment. While cargo has also been a singular bright spot, with revenue soaring 53% in the past financial year. Now, over at Qatar Airways, which played a vital connecting role during the pandemic, don't expect financial results for a few months, but the red ink will be splashed everywhere. Like Emirates, cargo has been booming for Qatar Airways, but that boost cannot make up for that fall in passenger numbers. To aid its balance sheet, Qatar Airways revealed last month that it has accepted $3 billion in financial support from its government since the beginning of the pandemic. Both carriers are obviously heavily battered by this crisis, but they intend to emerge strongly as traffic recovers. For our second report, we head over to South Africa, where our South African defence reporter Sam Basch and Alan Peaford have an update from Paramount and news of changes in the country's senior ranks.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. It's been a great couple of weeks for South Africa's Paramount Group. As Marcella reported in the news, the shortlisting of the Bronco 2 for the US Special Forces Armed Overwatch aircraft prototype program is going to give Paramount's Mwari program a great boost. The Bronco is developed from the Mwari platform, which is built at Paramount's Wonderboom Airport facility just outside Pretoria. But something else is building there that could be even more important for South Africa's future. Paramount has moved its Technical Aviation Academy there, in a move that's seen as vital for securing a next generation of young Africans looking for a career in aviation and defence, where it's offering internationally recognised aviation courses to train Africa's future aircraft technicians, as demand for these professionals continues to scale across the continent and around the world. TATV's South African defence correspondent Sam Basch joins me now from Pretoria. Sam, it's great to see Paramount driving through change to get a focus on practical training where there is so clearly a need.
The government made some mistake some years ago by closing technical colleges. And the focus was really on university. And I think that was a serious mistake, because anywhere in the world where you look, even in the most advanced countries like Germany and Switzerland, technical people are required all across the board. And I think in aviation that is equally so, and probably more stronger, because the transformation of our industry is very important. I think with the government focusing on transformation, they want to see more young black people and being brought in. And I think because the colleges were closed many years ago, a college like this one, a training facility that Paramount is hosting now, is the way to go.
And Sam, as Mark alluded to in his introduction, there have been other changes in the defence hierarchy as well.
The chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Solly Shoke, retired after 10 years in that position, a rather long tenure in my mind. Holding office for so long obviously holds up promotions right through the ranks, as you can imagine. His replacement is General Rudzani Mapanya, sworn in on May 28, in the presence of President Cyril Ramaphosa, the commander-in-chief of the country's armed forces. The retreat parade in the military town of Tabatwane in Pretoria involved paratroopers and a gun salute while formations of aircraft roared overhead. Interestingly, General Mpanya has a long career leading South Africa's Special Forces, arguably the first chief of the SANDF from this mustering. On June 4, Lieutenant General Wiseman Mbambo was formally inducted as Chief of the South African Airforce at the historic Air Force Base Swartkop. The change of command parade also served as farewell to the outgoing Air Force Chief, Lieutenant General Fabian Msimang, whose retirement came after an unusually long 8 years in that capacity. In a poignant ceremony, Msimang handed his successor a special handmade dagger, the symbol of authority of South Africa's Air Force chiefs. Lieutenant General Mbambo is probably the first holding that position without wearing pilot's wings.
Sam, it's probably a bit of a poisoned chalice right now. There's a real challenge ahead.
Yes, I have to be honest. The Air Force has a serious funding problem. Not necessarily only the Air Force, the entire Defence Force. And that translates into equipment that is outdated. We actually have a maritime patrol capability of aircraft 75 years and older. Our transport aircraft, two of them actually participated in this parade, the C-130. It's a C-130BZ in South African parlance. Those actually came in 1963. That's almost 60 years ago.
Thanks, Sam. Mark, it's back to you from here, where there suddenly seems to be some positivity about the future for South African defence.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you very much, Alan. Turkish Aerospace is building the region's largest subsonic wind tunnel facility. Work is already underway and will allow the company to carry out wind tunnel tests on the proposed new Turkish fighter aircraft, as well as for the development of indigenous rotary wing and fixed wing aircraft. The new centre is also the second largest facility of its kind across the whole of Europe. The tunnel will have 3 different test sections: large, small and open. The test specimens will be positioned in these sections and will be equipped with state-of-the-art technology measurement and sensing devices for advanced testing. With the integrated moving ground belt system, landing and take-off tests for aircraft will also be carried out in this tunnel in Turkey. You'll be able to see more about this in our Defence Monthly show at the end of the month. Now let's go to India, where correspondent Jay Menon has news of an innovative drone delivery service. Things getting interesting out in India there, Jay?
That's correct. India is limping back to normal, and it seems the pandemic has forced Indian authorities to expedite certain proposals. And India has already started piloting long-range unmanned aircraft system to test the viability of home deliveries of medicines, e-commerce, and even food orders using drones. And one of the first such attempts in the country to use drones beyond visual line of sight for delivery of medicines and packaged material, a consortium led by Andra Technologies, a company having operations in the United States, the United Kingdom, and India has started conducting trials in this regard. Andra's flight team launched its first sortie on June 16th after getting the final clearance from authorities concerned in India, such as the Ministry of Defence, Directorate General of Civil Aviation, and the Ministry of Civil Aviation. For the next several weeks, the flight team will conduct beyond visual line of sight operations to deliver food and medical packages with Andra designed and built drones in several villages in 2 districts of India's most populated state of Uttar Pradesh. This will be done using Andra's Smart Skies technology. The consortium led by Andra includes the Indian Institute of Technology, Roper, along with online food and delivery platform Swiggy and another Indian company, Better Drones. Back to you in the studio. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay. What a fascinating prospect. We look forward to seeing how that goes in the coming weeks and in the coming months. A little bit of breaking news, sad news I'm afraid. The 53rd AFRA Annual General Assembly, planned for Angola, will be switching to a virtual format. It will take place on November the 16th and 17th, so save those dates. So that's it from Marcella and me. Until the next time, stay safe, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.
How do we achieve ultimate defense interoperability? Inspired by Vision 2030, we are introducing the first of its kind, the World Defense Show. Integrating land, air, sea, satellite, and security.